Hey guys, today we're talking about lessons 2-1, 2-2, and then we're going to get a little bit into 2-3 also. So 2-1 is how can you use mental math to add and subtract numbers. And it's a little tricky, but literally it's just to help you be a better mathematician. So we are going to spend some time on it in class, or we already did. But if you don't understand it, not a big deal. It's just to help you understand numbers a little bit better and be able to do things in your head. However, on your test, I do suggest lining up those decimals and making sure that you're accurate. Lesson 2-1 is how do you estimate sums. There's two different ways that you can estimate, so we're going to talk about those. You can round or you can use compatible numbers. And then in lesson 2-3, it's talking about using models to show your work in math. So we're going to be using some base 10 blocks. But again, for today, the first two lessons really are just to help you be a better mathematician. And if you're thinking like, what just happened after the lesson, it's not a big deal because it's a lot of new words. And between you and me, if you just add them up on your paper, no one's going to know you didn't use mental math. So, but let's show you the lesson just in case you are curious about how it works. So the associative property and commutative property are really what help us be able to use mental math. Because if I was adding up the price of this, I think it's like a little Game Boy or calculator, sunglasses, and backpack, if I wanted to do it mentally, I should be adding up this amount with this amount first because of the 45 cents and the 95 cents. So I'm just making it easier on my mental math. So associative property will let you group these two numbers together first. So on this line, you need to write down groupings. That's the associative property. So the associative property lets you change the groupings of numbers, and we do groupings with parentheses. The commutative property lets you move the numbers around in an equation. So again, it's all about reordering the numbers to make it easier for mental math. So the commutative property lets you move the numbers around. The last two new things that I need you to understand are compatible numbers and compensation. So compatible numbers are just numbers that are easy to do very quickly and solve it in your head. So it says here, numbers that are easy to compute or solve in your head. So if I have, let's look at this chart, 237 and 345, okay? I might use, to find an estimation, I might change number 3, week 3 to, I might change week 3 to 250 and week 4 to 350, just because 250 and 350 are compatible and they're easy to add up together in my head because 50 and 50 make 100. So that's what compatible numbers is. So numbers that are easy to compute or solve, in your head. And then compensation is also helpful in mental math and estimating sums. The numbers, you just change them a little bit to make it easier to solve. So in compensation, if you're doing like 49.99 minus 20, because I don't know, you got a $20 coupon or something, you could use compensation and just change the numbers a little bit. So instead of $49.99, I might do 50 minus 20, which is 30 in my head. But I know that I need to add an extra cent back in because I took away an extra cent. So I'm going to add that cent back in at the end instead of sitting there and trying to borrow and all those zeros. You just use compensation. Okay, so last thing on this page, you can estimate in two different ways, and we're going to talk about this a lot, so I want you to take notes on it. You can use rounding, which means you just round to the nearest tenth, round to the nearest 10, round to the greatest place value, round to the nearest whole number. There's lots of different directions that you'll see when rounding. But when you get the choice, make it easy. Okay? So, for example, over here, week 1, just call that 200. And week 2, call it 300 and then add them together or subtract them. So make it easy. And then the other way to round or to estimate is by using compatible numbers. Compatible numbers are great to use just because you're finding numbers that go together easily in your head. So we'll be practicing this in class, but I'm glad you took these notes for lessons 2-1 and 2-2. The next thing we're going to look at is a lesson for 2-3 that has to do with manipulatives. For lesson 2-3, you have this problem in your book, but you really don't even need to open it today because I'm going to have you practicing a little bit differently than the book does. So Gloria rode her bicycle 7,500th mile in the morning and then 1/40,000th miles in the afternoon. How many miles did Gloria ride in all? Solve this problem any way you choose. So today you're going to be going to your Clever page and click on Mrs. Watts. And I added a new link. It's called Virtual Math Manipulatives. You're all going to be hanging out in here today because there is a way for you guys to use base 10 blocks online instead of me getting them all out and having little pieces all over the place or not having enough. So down in this corner is your base 10 blocks. If you click that open, it'll pop open the tool. Now, I already have a tool started over here to model our problem. So I have 7,500ths plus 1/40,000. I can do 75 of these. There you go. Molly wants snacks this morning. I can do 75 of these little things, but that might be a little crazy. So I can pull out 7 10s. You gotta be quiet. I'm recording. And I'm gonna add this to 1/40,000. So I'm just gonna change colors so that you can kind of see what this looks like. But we have 1/40,000. So there's one whole. And here's 4 tenths. Again, I could have done 40 hundredths, like 40 little pieces, but that would be crazy. So this is equivalent. I have 10 in each row, that's 40. Now, when I'm adding all of these together, I'm combining them. So notice that I have 7 up here. I only need 3 more tenths to make a whole. So I can actually drag these up. And now I have 1 whole and 1/10 left over. So this is 1/40,000, 7 tenths, and I can't forget my 500ths. So I'm going to pull those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I can easily see my answer. I have 2, 1/10, and 500ths. So that's 2 and 1/1500. Woo! So I'm going to have you guys play around with this tool today. I'm going to give you some problems. All right, so today in Seesaw, I'm going to give you a couple problems to model. I'm going to have you take screenshots or mess around with this tool and then take some screenshots and show me what you got. But have fun with it and hopefully learn how to model with mathematics.